My name is Alice, 35 years old, an elementary school teacher in a small town in Texas. That morning, I was just stepping out to buy coffee for my mother, who had been seriously ill, when police officers pulled guns on me and tackled me to the ground in the parking lot of Pete's Market. They zip-tied my hands, called me a public threat, while dozens of people filmed, laughed, whispered like I was a criminal. And what froze my heart was when I saw my sister Lauren standing just a few feet away, casually raising her phone, snapping a photo of me sprawled on the ground, blood at the corner of my mouth, coffee soaked into my hair. Have you ever trusted a family member so deeply that you handed them your future, only to have them destroy you in public? If this story stirs something painful in your heart, leave a comment. Hit like if you've ever been misunderstood. And don't forget to subscribe, because what I'm about to share is exactly what they never wanted you to know. I was born the second daughter in a family where favoritism was never spoken aloud, but always present in the glances, in dinner conversations, in the way my father looked at Lauren like she was his son, while I was just a nameless shadow near the window. Dad passed when I was 16. A sudden stroke on his way home from the job site. No parting words. After the funeral, my mom, Clara, grew quiet, sighed often, and clung to Lauren like she was the only thing tethering her to life. Lauren was 19 then, had just lost her college scholarship due to poor grades, yet still cradled in Mom's arms while she wept, saying, "It's okay, sweetie. All I want is for you to be happy." Meanwhile, I was on my knees scrubbing the floor, soothing my 4-year-old brother while Mom told me, "Alice, don't bother your sister anymore." That's when I understood my role. I was the daughter no one chose, but the one who would carry everything. At 23, Mom was diagnosed with stage 2 heart failure. By then, Lauren was married and living in another state in a big house, while I stayed in our old home, working part-time at the city library and tutoring high school students in the evenings. I didn't feel miserable or cheated. As long as Mom was alive and smiling, I kept going. Every night, I'd cook her a small bowl of soup and toast a few slices of the crusty bread she liked. We weren't wealthy, but I tried my best so she'd never go without. Lauren, she'd call about once a month. Sometimes just to check in, other times crying over how her ex-husband hit her, then quietly withdrawing money from Mom's account, saying it was to cover emotional damages. I never said anything. I never wanted to break Mom's heart more than it already was. 3 years later, after Lauren's marriage fell apart, she returned, dragging 2 suitcases, standing at the door, her blonde hair wild in the wind, saying words I'll never forget. "I need you. Mom needs us. We're family, aren't we?" I said nothing. Just nodded. Mom cried, holding her like a mother reunited with a long-lost child. I watched from the kitchen, holding a soup ladle still dripping broth. Something in my chest tightened, not jealousy but more like a quiet sense of dread. After that, life shifted. Lauren took a part-time job at City Hall while I kept teaching. She took over the bills, handled doctor appointments, called the insurance company. I exhaled. I thought maybe, just maybe, we had finally learned to share the weight. Then one day, just as I was leaving for my night class, Lauren approached me holding a thick stack of papers. "Can you sign these real quick? Just income verification forms to apply for Mom's treatment support." I filled everything out, "Just need your signature." I looked at her, then over at Mom asleep in the recliner, her throw pillow slipped to the floor, her face tired. I didn't ask much. I trusted her. I signed. A few weeks later, I started noticing strange things. Letters from the bank addressed to Lauren. Mom's medical insurance had a new contact address. And once, when I took Mom to a checkup, a nurse asked, "Are you the new legal guardian for Mrs. Clara?" I froze. That night, I asked Lauren in the softest tone, like I feared the answer might shatter something inside me. "What did you tell the nurse? Why does she think I'm no longer Mom's representative?" Lauren put down her phone, her lips curling slightly, using that syrupy voice she reserved for outsiders. "I made a few changes for convenience. You're so busy and Mom needs someone more available. Doesn't everything feel smoother now that I'm handling things?" I nodded. But inside, a hairline crack had begun to form. I started reviewing the papers I'd signed. And that's when I found it. One of them was a property transfer form, switching house ownership from Mom's name to Lauren's. The signing date was that very day she brought me that thick folder. I had signed it, without reading closely, never imagining that someone who called me sister could deceive me like that. The house I grew up in, the one where Dad hung our wedding photo, where I stayed up all night holding Mom during asthma attacks, where I tutored underprivileged kids on weekends, was now legally under someone else's name. I didn't tell Mom. I couldn't bear to see her heart break. I still cared for her as before, worked as before. Only now every time I came home it felt like stepping into a place I no longer belonged. And Lauren, she kept smiling, cooking simple meals and saying, "See? Doesn't everything feel less stressful now for our family?" I stayed quiet, sat beside Mom, resting my hand on her shoulder, gazing at those walls I once thought would always be safe. But deep in my chest I knew something was building to break. And when it did, I wouldn't be the one carrying the family anymore. I'd be the one standing up for myself. I began noticing other strange signs. My email inbox flooded with alerts from banks. More and more strange emails appeared, most of them confirming transactions on accounts I'd never opened. One read, "Your authorized representative has been changed." Another warned that my credit profile was under review for suspicious activity. I remember opening one email on a rainy afternoon, while Mom slept on the couch with a light knit blanket over her. The subject line read, "Confirmation of medical supervision order." I clicked, and saw my name in bold at the top. Alice M. Bennett, subject to mid-level psychiatric monitoring due to unstable psychological symptoms. I sat frozen at the desk, my hand trembling over the keyboard. I didn't understand. I was the one caring for Mom daily, teaching students with love, never with a hint of mental issues or history worth concern. I called the hotline listed in the email. A woman answered flatly after verifying my name. "Yes, your file was submitted by your closest relative, your sister Lauren Bennett. She reported signs of delusion, potential self-harm and endangerment to others." I felt the blood drain from my body. My mouth went dry. I never. "Ma'am, this file was submitted under Section 17A of Texas's mandatory health surveillance law. If you believe this is an error, you may file a grievance at your nearest care facility." I hung up, my head buzzing like someone had struck me from behind. I ran to my room, opened the drawer, searched through every document I had ever signed. There it was, a thick set of forms bound in a dark leather folder. The first page was a temporary guardianship authorization form, with my signature. And Lauren's. She had done it. While I was working, caring for Mom, trusting her with paperwork, she had slowly stripped me of every legal right I had. I called Lauren right after. She didn't pick up. I texted, "Something's going on. Did you submit something? Was your identity stolen?" Almost 2 hours later, Lauren replied with just one line, "I thought you'd be grateful I handled it for you." That night I couldn't sleep. Every creak outside my window made my heart jolt. I felt like I was being watched. A few days later, just as I came home from teaching, still in my long dress with my backpack on, 3 police officers stood at my front door. One of them, tall with a steady voice, said, "We've received a report from a family member regarding dangerous behavior. You need to come with us for a mental health evaluation." I froze. I didn't do anything. I just came back from school. The second officer held out a document stamped by local authorities. "This is an emergency order for evaluation. If you don't cooperate, we'll have to escort you by force." I looked over at my mother, still sitting at the dining table, her hands trembling as she held a glass of water. Then I looked at Lauren, standing by the kitchen door, arms crossed, face blank. "I'll take care of Mom. You just need a little rest," Lauren said softly, like it was nothing. They took me to an outpatient facility where I was held for 24 hours of observation. They asked absurd questions like, "Have you ever felt someone is following you? Do you feel like outside forces are trying to control you? Have you ever thought about hurting yourself?" I answered as calmly as I could. But I knew the trap was already set. If I reacted emotionally, got angry, or said anything out of line, they'd add another mark to my file. I looked around the exam room, pale white walls, cameras on the ceiling, files neatly stacked in metal drawers, and I understood, I was no longer free. Thankfully, my final evaluation was done by a doctor named Samantha Yates. She was the only one who dared to meet my eyes. After nearly an hour of conversation, she tilted her head and gently asked, "Alice, I don't see any clinical signs of mental instability. But I'm required to note that you're under extreme family pressure. Is there anyone else you trust besides your sister?" I swallowed hard. I didn't know how to answer. Because besides Lauren, I had no one. When they brought me home the next morning, Mom was asleep. Lauren was in the kitchen applying lipstick. She said only one thing as I stepped in: "Welcome home, Alice. Everything's taken care of now." I gave a faint smile. But it was a smile caught in my throat. Because at that moment I understood clearly. I had just escaped a perfectly designed trap, and if I didn't find a way out for good, next time, no one would be there to bring me back. I no longer believed in coincidence. Not after everything that had happened. After being forced into that mental evaluation and returning to Lauren's staged silence, I began digging into everything I'd once overlooked. I gathered every bill, every odd email, documents with my signature that I didn't remember signing. Some nights I stayed up until 3 in the morning, eyes red, sorting papers while trying not to wake Mom. In an old folder hidden at the bottom of the filing cabinet, I found a savings account statement under my name and Mom's. It was the one Dad had opened for us before he passed. The balance once held nearly $70,000. Now just over $800 remained. I called the bank. They confirmed the withdrawals over the past 8 months were made by the authorized legal guardian. The name they gave me was Lauren Bennett. But it didn't stop there. They also sent me a copy of a transfer request for property under Mom's name, a small plot of land south of town, once my father's orchard. The document had 2 signatures, Mom's and the guardian's. I looked at the shaky, uneven scrawl that was supposed to be Mom's signature, completely off from her usual handwriting. I knew immediately it wasn't hers. But how could I prove it when legal authority no longer belonged to me? I went to a law office near downtown. The assistant who greeted me was kind, but after checking my personal file ID, she lowered her voice. "I'm sorry, Alice. We can't assist you. Your record currently shows temporary loss of legal capacity. We can't represent you without consent from your legal guardian." I sat frozen in the pale gray leather chair. The room was bright, the smell of fresh coffee filled the air, but all I could hear was my heartbeat pounding in my ears. The door in front of me quietly closed, and once again I was pushed out, like my very presence had become an administrative liability. That night I tried not to worry Mom. I just told her I needed a few days to rest. But as I turned to leave her room, she quietly asked, "Alice, are you okay?" I bit my lip, turned back, held her hand and shook my head. Her eyes were tired and clouded, but there was still something bright in them. I didn't lie. But I couldn't tell her everything either. The following Friday morning I had just returned from class when I saw a man standing on our porch. White shirt, brown leather jacket, neatly cropped gray hair, eyes sharp but calm. "Are you Alice Bennett?" "I am. My name is Clark Weston. I'm a private investigator. I believe someone wants you to know the truth." I was about to ask who he was, why he had come to find me, but he pulled a brown envelope from his coat pocket and handed it to me. "A former student of yours, Elijah Houston, hired me. He was in your class 3 years ago at Jackson Elementary." I froze. Elijah had been one of the quietest kids in my class, often teased because of his stutter. I used to spend hours after school helping him practice just so he could read a full sentence aloud. "I think you should read this," Clark said, watching me closely. I opened the envelope. Inside was a handwritten letter, carefully written in neat block letters. "Miss Alice, I don't know if you remember me, but I saw the video online where you were arrested at Pete's Market. I know you're not a bad person. My mom's a nurse at Spring Hill Clinic where they said you were evaluated. She said someone asked the doctor to sign papers quickly without full review. I overheard and wrote it down, then I gave it to my uncle, Mr. Clark. I hope he can help you. You're the kindest teacher I ever had." I sat there silently for a long time, clutching the letter until the paper crumpled. Clark gently set a thick folder on the table. Evidence of Lauren falsifying medical records, abusing her guardianship status, and withdrawing funds from accounts she didn't own. And here, signed statements from 2 clinic employees confirming the signatures were coerced. I looked up at him. "Why are you helping me?" He smiled and gave a slight nod. "Because one child believed in you enough to risk everything to defend the truth." I couldn't speak. I just felt something begin to release inside my chest. Clark closed the folder. "Miss Alice, from this moment on I'll work with you. But you need to be ready. Lauren won't go down easily." I nodded. And in that moment I knew. This battle wasn't just between two sisters anymore. It was a fight to reclaim my voice, my justice, and myself. That morning, the sun was soft. I remember it clearly because as I stepped out of the pharmacy near Pete's Market, the light angled through the trees, making the dewdrops on the windshield sparkle like silver dust. I had picked up Mom's heart medication, a small bottle of milk, and a hot cup of coffee. My hands trembled slightly as I held the cup, not from the cold but from exhaustion. I hadn't really slept all night, poring over the files Clark gave me, checking on Mom. Something inside me had shifted. I wasn't afraid anymore, but I wasn't fully ready for what was coming either. Just as I reached the parking lot, I heard tires skid hard across gravel. A black SUV sped in, stopping abruptly near the entrance. Its doors slammed open, and 3 people in SWAT gear stepped out, dark glasses on, hands hovering over their holstered weapons. Before I could even understand what was happening, a loud shout echoed through the neighborhood. "Stay still. Drop what's in your hands. Both hands on your head immediately." I froze. I was the only one on the sidewalk. I thought maybe they were looking for someone behind me. But when they stepped closer, eyes fixed on me, I realized I was the target. "I'm just buying medicine for my mom. I haven't done anything." One of them yanked a paper from his jacket pocket, reading aloud as if it was the last sentence I'd hear with my dignity intact. "Alice Margaret Bennett, subject to a mandatory medical supervision order under federal health records. Risk level, moderate, potentially unstable." I heard every word clearly, like a sentence dropping straight on me. I shook my head, stepped back, the hot coffee nearly spilling across my palm. "I'm not evading any order. That file is fake. I'm investigating and I have legal representation. Let me call." "Don't move." A sharp crack tore through the air. My back felt like it was hit with a hammer of fire. My whole body went numb. The coffee flew out of my hand, a hot brown splash scattering across the cement. I collapsed, my head hitting the curb, ears ringing with sirens and shouting. My vision blurred, but I still saw a figure standing not far away. A familiar silhouette, white jacket, curly blonde hair, phone in hand. Lauren. She didn't run to help me. Didn't shout objections. Didn't stop the police. She raised her phone, tilted her head to frame the shot, then clicked. I heard the click clearly in the heavy air filled with the smell of exhaust and chemical powder from the stun gun. I tried to get up but was pushed down, my wrists tightened in plastic ties. My face pressed against the rough ground, coffee mixed with blood from my lip into a bitter, harsh paste. Around me, everything moved like in a daze. A woman was live streaming, her voice excited. "Must be dangerous. Look, the SWAT just showed up." A boy rode past on a bike, saw me, then shrank away. A man lighting a cigarette nearby shook his head, muttering, "This town's gone crazy." I wanted to scream. To tell them I wasn't crazy, not running away, just bringing medicine home for my mother. A frail woman, sick and waiting in the old kitchen less than a mile away. But my mouth wouldn't open. The pain kept pulsing in waves. An officer approached, speaking into his radio. "Target secured. Moving to phase 2. Check phone and personal bags." Another picked up my wallet, opened it. I caught fragments. "Teacher? Jackson Elementary?" Couldn't be. I don't know if they doubted me, but no one stopped. I lay there, my body feeling crushed under tons of stone. Lauren stepped closer, standing at the edge of the police circle. She sipped coffee from a cup identical to mine. Her gaze calm, even satisfied. She whispered to someone next to her, probably the cameraman. She yelled, "In the hospital, right? Just keep filming. People need to see her real face." I don't know where I found the strength, but I turned my head, met her eyes. Lauren looked at me for a second, then raised her phone again. Not to call. To take pictures. I didn't see my tears fall. But something inside me shattered. Not from pain. But because the one who once called me sister, the one who begged forgiveness in that warm kitchen, is now capturing every humiliating moment like a trophy. And I understood, this fight was never about money. It was about power. And she had no intention of stopping. The burnt smell of the stun gun still clung to my sleeve, while my face pressed against the pavement, blood from my lips spreading with cold coffee. The ties bit into my wrists with every breath, tearing my skin like it was being ripped. I heard heavy boots of an officer step by me, but no one stopped. No one asked if I was okay. No one untied me. The radio chatter kept repeating, target restrained. Awaiting transfer confirmation. Around us, the crowd grew larger. Phones raised from every side, curious, judging in different eyes. I had become their morning tabloid story. A woman arrested in the market they'd gossip about at lunch. Then a heavy, deep engine sound came from afar. A sleek black SUV silently glided past the police barricade, its tires rolling slowly as if asking permission from no one. I couldn't see clearly, but I heard brakes stop right near my head, heard a car door slam open, then leather shoes stepping onto the ground. No one spoke. The whole space seemed frozen in a held breath. I tried to turn my head. The man wore a black suit, a crisp white shirt without a wrinkle, a subtle striped tie, polished leather shoes, not a speck of dust on them. He looked at no one but me. Noah. My husband. The man I dared not call that morning, knowing he was in a meeting in Washington. The man I thought, if he knew this was happening, would leave the meeting immediately and come, but I still didn't dare call, not wanting to drag him into this chaos. Yet he had come. He walked straight to the SWAT commander. Without hesitation. Without looking left or right. His voice low, clear, not loud but cutting through the silence like a cold blade slicing the wind. Review your warrant. This ends now. 6 words. That made everyone take a step back. The commander, a bulky man with HRT on his shoulder patch, paused briefly, then quickly regained posture. Excuse me, sir. This area is being handled by the tactical unit. Noah didn't respond immediately. He pulled a small leather wallet from his inner vest pocket. Inside was a federal ID card with a gold border, embossed with the National Security Agency seal. The SWAT commander looked at it for less than 3 seconds. His face shifted from cold to pale. He stepped back, nodded slightly. Please hold. Noah said nothing more, only locked eyes with me. The same calm gaze, but this time I saw something rising inside it. Not anger, but pain and helplessness. A younger officer awkwardly stepped back to the vehicle, holding a radio, calling the senior command. Urgent. Requesting verification on supervision order for Bennett, Alice Margaret. File match code YT4G9. Incident location, 3125 South Maple, Pete's Market. Federal security representative present. A long silence followed. Then a voice came through the radio, urgent and mixed with keyboard clicking. Report wrong address. The real target is Bennett Lauren. Repeat, Lauren Bennett. The warrant was mistakenly entered into the system last night due to a file code error. Cease all intervention immediately. Cease immediately. The line of officers stood silent. One shook hands nervously as he removed his earpiece, bowing his head. But no one untied me. I still lay there, scratched, dried blood on my cheek, eyes fixed on Noah. He stepped forward slowly, knelt down, not caring that his expensive dress pants touched the dusty ground. Anyone need further confirmation? He asked, his voice touching anger. No one answered. He bent down, used a small knife from his keychain to cut the ties behind my back. When the plastic snapped, my wrists burned like a burn. I took a deep breath. But not because I was free. Because I realized, until that moment, none of those who arrested me, those who pointed guns at me, dragged me down, had the courage to say, we were wrong. No apology. Noah helped me sit up. His hand gripped my elbow tightly but gently, as if afraid I might break beneath his fingers. You okay? He asked softly. I nodded, my throat tight. He stood up, turned to the SWAT commander, frozen in place. I will request a full recording of all communications from last night until this morning. And I will await a signed written verification from your supervisory level. No one argued. Noah didn't have to shout. Didn't have to slam a table. His presence, combined with those 6 words earlier, silenced the entire block. But inside me, even untied and standing, I knew the storm had only just begun. And the person behind it all was still holding a phone, standing hidden in a corner of the market just a few steps away. Lauren. I had just stood up when I saw her. Lauren stood tucked at the edge of the market, holding a rose gold phone, still recording video. She thought she was hidden in the crowd, but I recognized that stance immediately. Her eyes looked at me then, no longer cold as before, but tinged with worry and uncertainty. I took a breath, my throat dry, wrists still marked purple from the tight ties. The atmosphere around us seemed to wait for someone's explanation, from anyone, but no one spoke. I turned and stepped forward, where the people filming began to part like opening a path. I looked Lauren straight in the eye. Mom didn't choose you, I said, my voice not loud but clear in the quiet space. You stole. You took what wasn't yours, by lying, forging, and coercing a sick woman fading away. She froze. My words hit like a slap in front of the crowd. A man live streaming from the row of booths hissed softly, "Oh my, that's her sister? This is live right now." I kept looking at Lauren, blinking not once. You don't win because you're good. You win because you manipulated trust. But now you'll pay the price. Lauren stepped forward, lips trembling slightly but voice still dramatic. People don't know her. Alice was hospitalized in a mental ward with official diagnoses. I'm just protecting Mom. The crowd buzzed. Some whispers started to rise. She knew one more push would make me fall in their eyes just like she had before. But Noah stepped forward holding a thick file, flipping to the first page and holding it straight toward a cameraman. This is the official medical record from the Texas health system, confirmed by Dr. Samantha Yates, who directly evaluated Alice under an emergency order. The record is clean. No psychiatric diagnosis. No treatments. No prescriptions. No notes on dangerous behavior. He paused for a moment. Everything Lauren just said is fabricated. The whole block seemed to freeze. A middle-aged woman recording live gasped, "She's lying? Her own sister did that." Lauren stepped back a pace. Her face changed visibly, hands clenched white. "No, it's all made up. I have proof. I have video. Your video shows Alice tied up, slammed to the ground while you filmed it, right?" Noah interrupted, his voice no longer calm but cold. "You hold evidence of authority abuse, not proof of her dangerous behavior. And if needed, we'll release that footage to every domestic media outlet." I stepped closer to Lauren. No distance left. Her face was less than 6 inches from mine. Her eyes flickered as if searching for support, but no one spoke up. I looked into her eyes and said slowly, "You built a whole world to control my life. But that world isn't real. You can rewrite papers, forge documents, even deceive Mom. But you can't erase the truth. And today the truth is live-streamed for the whole country to see." A young man nearby tapped his screen, then said loudly, 40,000 viewers. Thousands of comments already. Lauren truly panicked. She screamed, "They're all lies. I'm just helping Mom. Alice is unstable. Mom said she was dangerous. I have recordings." Noah calmly pulled a small device from his pocket and pressed a button. My mother's voice came through, weak and trembling but clear enough that the whole market fell silent. Lauren wouldn't let me rest. She kept forcing me to sign papers. Said it was to protect Alice, but I know she only wanted the house. I want Alice to know. I'm sorry, I signed because I was too tired. I didn't know what to do. A sob came from the crowd. Someone muttered, "Oh my God." I didn't cry. Not then. I just stood still, letting Mom speak her last pain in front of people who once saw me as the problem. Lauren stood frozen like stone. Her hands dropped, phone clattered onto the concrete. Her eyes seemed to look for a dark corner to hide, but no shadow was big enough. I didn't need to say anything more. Mom spoke for me. And what Lauren tried to build collapsed right where she chose to humiliate me, in broad daylight before hundreds of cameras and the whole country. Lauren said nothing more after my mother's recording played. She stood frozen under the harsh gazes of the crowd. Her phone lay discarded on the ground, screen dimly lit, still recording the face of its owner, eyes dazed. I didn't need to take another step toward her. A patrol car silently pulled up to the curb. 2 uniformed officers stepped out, one young, the other around 50, probably a supervisor. The older officer spoke calmly but firmly. "Lauren Bennett, you are being detained for investigation on charges including falsifying medical documents, abusing guardianship authority, embezzlement of personal and inheritance assets, evidence tampering, and intentionally providing false information to authorities. You have the right to remain silent." Lauren snapped out of her trance. "No. You're mistaken. I only wanted to help my mother. I did nothing wrong. Alice, she's the dangerous one." The other officer quietly approached and skillfully cuffed Lauren's wrists. The metallic click echoed softly in the bright morning like a brief ending requiring no further words. Lauren struggled and shouted, I'm the only one taking care of Mom. Alice ran away. I'm the one who should be trusted. Clark, who had been quietly standing behind the crowd, stepped forward. He wore no uniform or badge, but his posture and cold expression made anyone guilty uneasy. He looked Lauren straight in the eyes, expressionless. I once believed you could change, Lauren. But I suppose I was naive. Lauren spun around. Who are you? Why are you interfering? I don't know you. Clark pursed his lips and tilted his head slightly. We went to high school together. Remember Mr. Jerome's biology class? I helped you with that final paper. You never cared about anyone but yourself even when others took the blame for you. She fell silent. Her eyes blinked repeatedly as if trying to deny, but old memories resurfaced. Clark continued, his tone losing its edge, becoming weary. I've been in this profession for 30 years. Never met anyone better at hiding than you. But I always remembered that look. The eyes of someone ready to fabricate to avoid responsibility, willing to push others down just to climb higher. A small crowd was forming a semicircle around the police and Lauren. No yelling, no throwing stones, no dramatic reactions. Just looks. Looks of those who once trusted, once were deceived, now realizing their mistake. An elderly woman with gray hair and grocery bags whispered loud enough for all to hear. That girl told me Alice was severely depressed. I even comforted her, told her to try helping her sister through it. Another added, I once signed a referral for Lauren to join a local charity board. If I had known. The police led Lauren toward the patrol car. She glanced back, her eyes no longer angry or cunning. In that brief moment, I saw a woman stripped of everything. Dignity, mask, and the control she once gripped tightly as the only power that made her feel valued. The car door shut with a heavy thud. No applause. No cheers. No words spoken as the vehicle rolled away from Pete's Market, as if the entire town held a moment of silence for what had just happened. I stood there, wrists aching, cheeks still swollen. But I straightened my back. Not because I had won, but because I hadn't fallen despite how many tried to push me down. Clark turned to me, eyes softening. Are you okay? I nodded. I will be. He smiled gently. Do you remember that student named Elijah? I paused, then nodded. The stuttering boy. Clark nodded. He was the one who sent me the anonymous letter. Said you were the only person who ever truly listened to him. He trusted you. And because of that small trust, everything started to come to light. My eyes welled up. I had weathered a fierce storm, buried under slander, silence, icy shocks. But a small, trembling child reading in the corner had been the first light pulling me out of darkness. And I understood sometimes the kindness we give, even in the smallest ways, can become a guiding light when all seems lost. I returned home late afternoon as the sun softened, casting long honey-colored streaks across the porch. The scent of freshly cut grass from the neighbor's yard mingled with old wood from the window frame, making me pause on the step. The house that was once my mother's, the place I thought would never be mine. But now, all legal documents had been corrected, ownership restored. Partly thanks to Clark, partly to Noah, but mostly because Mom still believed in me even when she no longer had strength to speak. The door creaked open with a familiar sound. For a fleeting moment, I thought I saw Mom sitting by the window chair, blanket over her legs, eyes closed listening to the local radio. But the room was silent. Only the evening light filtered through thin curtains, making dust particles float like lingering memories. I set my bag down, walked slowly into the kitchen. The wall clock still ticked, though its second hand seemed lazier than before. Mom's favorite jam jar still sat on the shelf. I opened the fridge and found half a carton of milk expired by a few weeks. Everything in the house was covered with a thin layer of dust. Lauren hadn't returned since that day. She had left as if never existing here, leaving behind a pile of papers, a few expensive makeup items on Mom's old vanity, and a heavy silence. I spent the whole afternoon opening windows, pulling bedding to wash, dusting, fluffing pillows, wiping the altar clean. By dusk, I stepped into the backyard. The small garden Mom once tended was overgrown with weeds. Wildflower beds were overtaken by dried vines. I took pruning shears, hands trembling but working slowly. I wasn't in a hurry. Each cut was a clearer line between the old and what could be reborn. As I bent down to pull out weeds, a gentle breeze swept across the porch roof. The wind chime by the window tinkled, a clear, lingering tone, unbroken. It was the bell Mom had hung last spring after she came home from the hospital. Whenever the wind blew, she'd look up and smile, saying, "This sound reminds me of my childhood. There was one just like it on Grandma's porch." I looked up, watching the chimes sway in the fading light, and for the first time since Mom passed, I didn't feel empty. I sat on the porch steps, holding a warm cup of coffee freshly brewed in Mom's old pot, the one she said she'd never replace because coffee made in the old pot tastes like love. The small radio on the windowsill played the afternoon news steadily. The announcer's voice was gentle, mixed with the chirping of sparrows calling each other home. In today's local news, Lauren Bennett, former legal guardian in the controversial Travis County case, has been officially charged with 3 counts: forging medical documents, misappropriating inheritance assets, and abusing guardianship powers. The prosecutor's office confirms that evidence gathered from witness testimonies, legal documents, and recordings from the deceased mother of the defendant is irrefutable. I didn't feel satisfaction. No sense of triumph that often comes with seeing the wrongdoer punished. I just sat quietly, gently turning my coffee cup in my hands, listening to the soft wind chime overhead, and a quiet within me slowly filling with a feeling both strange and familiar: peace. On the wooden table before me was Mom's old laptop. I hadn't opened it in a long time. But this morning, while cleaning a drawer, I found it carefully wrapped in a lavender-embroidered handkerchief, one she often used when guests came. I turned it on and typed the password: Mom's birthday. The screen lit up, showing only one folder on the desktop: for Alice. I opened it. Inside was a video. Old format, low quality, but when I clicked it, Mom's image appeared clearly, as if she had never left me. She sat in the worn blue armchair, a knitted blanket draped over her knees, a lamp behind casting a warm glow on her tired but gentle face, just as I remembered. "My daughter." Her voice was soft and hoarse, her hands still clasped as if holding something fragile. "I don't know when you'll watch this. Maybe I'm gone or lying somewhere unable to speak. But I want you to remember one thing, Alice. You are stronger than anyone ever thought. Even stronger than me." I swallowed hard, gripping the arm of the chair. "You once asked me why I always forgave Lauren. Because I was afraid if I didn't keep everyone close, I'd lose everything. But I realized, sometimes holding on to the wrong person is more painful than letting them go." Mom paused for a moment, pressing her lips together as if holding back tears. "If one day you feel like everything is turning against you, just stand still for a while. Don't rush to chase after it, don't try to take it back. Because what's right will stay and what's left should just go." She smiled softly, like the gentle breeze of early spring. "I believe in you. Always. Every time you walk through pain and still know how to keep your heart warm, you've already become the strongest." The screen faded to black, leaving my reflection faintly visible. I sat quietly for a long time. Tears didn't stream down, but silently fell onto my cheeks, mixing with the warmth from the coffee cup in my hands. I got up from the chair and carried the coffee out to the porch where I often sat on autumn evenings when Mom was still alive. She would come out there, wrap a thin scarf around me, then sit quietly beside me saying little. Just quietly watching the sky, occasionally patting my hand as a silent way to say, "I'm here, you're not alone." A gentle breeze brushed past, making the wind chime ring a familiar tone. I looked up, closed my eyes, letting the sound pass through me like a soothing light. Then I softly said, not needing anyone to hear or needing to be strong anymore, "I'm home, Mom." And I knew after everything I was no longer lost. Not in my heart and not in this very house. I had come home. Not carrying anger but carrying the pieces I once endured, and those small pieces were now being put back together, with love. What do you think about what happened to me, to Lauren, to my mom, and to that house? In a family, is forgiveness always the right thing? Or are there times when the bravest thing is to let go of a toxic relationship, even if it's with someone who shares your blood? I believe everyone listening to this story has had moments of doubting themselves, been misjudged, kept silent to preserve something called family peace. But if my story makes you look back at yourself or remember someone who once passed through your life, then perhaps we've touched on the most important thing: being honest with ourselves. If you have anything to share, a story, a memory, or just a thought, please leave it in the comments below. I will read every line as if reading little letters from those journeying with me from the other side of the screen. And if you want to continue following more stories about family, choices, love, and even the small things that can change a whole life. Please subscribe to the channel. Because the journey doesn't end here. There are still many doors in every home, many quiet knocks in the heart that I will continue to tell. Just for you.